So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar today, where we are joined by 2005 laureate Maud Barlow, who will talk about her Blue Community initiative, talking about human rights and water and our right to protect water sources. And we're joined not just by Maud Barlow, but also by Roland Brunner and Dinesh Sunna. Unfortunately, Dinesh is not able to talk in person, but we have a recording that he filmed earlier today, so we'll present that. And if you have any questions for him, then we can do so in the chat. So we'll have each speaker will speak for around 10 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer session for the remainder of our hour together. So please save your questions for that time. And we shall begin with Maud. Maud, please take it away.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not muted. John, and hello everyone, and Vin, and thank you. And big hello to Dinesh and Roland, my dear friends. I'm just going to start off with talking about I guess the three things I think we need to say about water first before we get to blue communities, because why blue communities is part of the story here. The first thing to know about water, fresh water on our planet, is that we are a planet running out. Yes, we were all told back in grade 6 or whatever that couldn't happen, that there's a finite amount, but we are diverting, over extracting groundwater, damming our rivers to death, polluting the planet's freshwater sources relentlessly. And it isn't just the climate crisis. The climate crisis exacerbates it, but it is not really in my opinion, is not the principal issue. We could end every greenhouse gas emission in the world tomorrow and we would still have a water crisis. In fact, the UN says that by 2030, which is not very far away, the demand for water will outstrip supply by 40%. And there's a new Bank of America study that goes even further that says by 2040, the world, the planet's water table will be essentially gone. And this is startlingly frightening. So, of course, that leads us to the second reality that we're dealing with, and that is the human crisis. In spite of all the work that we're doing, and many of us and people around the world are, to ensure the human right to water, still a quarter of the population of the planet doesn't have access to adequate access to clean water, and half of the people of the world do not have access to adequate sanitation. So when we all, at the beginning of the COVID crisis, when we were told, wash your hands with soap and warm water for half the population of the world, that wasn't possible. And the third thing to know is that the private interests, and I'm not saying all private interests, but some very powerful private interests have known before a lot of us that this reality was coming, and they knew whoever controlled water would be both powerful and wealthy. And so there has been a unrelenting water grab, also a land grab, but land grabs are often water grabs as well, in the form of privatization of water services. We have water markets where as in Australia, where licenses are converted to basically water as a good that can be traded and sold. Ditto in Chile, ditto in the United States, in the western states of the United States, and so on. We have water futures trading. We have water on the stock market. There are many, many ways in which we now have water offsets. There are many ways in which water is being privatized, and it is my deep conviction that if we don't protect water as a democratically controlled entity, we won't be able to reverse both the ecological and the human crisis that we're facing. So I just want to set that up as the very first basis. So the history basically of seeing water as a tradable good started in the mid-1980s. I first noticed it in reading the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement, which was the predecessor of the North American Free Trade Agreement, which became the model for free trade agreements all over the world. And in it, water was described as a tradable good. That set me on a personal journey because I couldn't figure out how water could be a tradable good. For me, it was something that came out of the tap and that you needed for life, and I couldn't imagine life without. And in the early 90s, the United Nations started using the term water as an economic good. And so we were beginning to see this shift from seeing water as, like air that belonging to us all, as something that can be put on the market as a commodity. And so in that spirit, this was the start of my journey, actually, building a global water justice movement. And in many ways, it culminated on July 28th, 2010, at the UN General Assembly, when the General Assembly recognized the human right to water and sanitation, which may sound like a motherhood. Of course, water is a human right, but it was not included in the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights because it wasn't seen as an issue then. It was up until the UN absolutely declared it to be a human right. Water was basically seen as something that for charity. It's a human need, but it can be looked after by private sector interests. So it was really important to get that twist, if you will, on the way we see water. So blue communities came into effect to be an antidote to the privatization, commodification, financialization of water. And that is declaring that water is a commons, is a public trust, belongs to everyone, and must be democratically controlled. And so it's been an alternative movement that's been growing. It started in Canada, my country, in 2009. My organization then, the Council of Canadians, held a conference with our major public sector union, the Canadian Union of Public Employees. And together we launched the Blue Planet Project and the Blue Communities Project to stop privatization internationally. And blue communities, that we at first we just saw it as a Canadian issue. It was Canadian municipalities, to get them to stop our government. At the time, we had a very right-wing government that was saying to municipalities, if you want federal funding for water upgrades, infrastructure upgrades, and so on, you have to go private. You have to go to a public-private partnership. So we were trying to get to the municipalities before they took this money and sold their services out, to say they'll take a pledge not to allow that to happen. So the original three pledges were that they would promote water as a human right. They would not privatize it. They would promote it and protect it as a public service. And the third is that where clean water was coming out of the tap, which is almost everywhere in Canada, they would not provide or sell bottled water at municipal events and municipal offices and so on. And we now have, I think it's 50 municipalities in Canada that took the pledge, and we basically ended water privatization services. I'm not saying it won't start again with a different government, but we really fought and won. It was a very big win. And then in 2012, I went to Switzerland, to Bern, Switzerland. I was part of a group fighting Nestle, because Nestle had its water, still has water headquarters in Switzerland, and met the then mayor of Bern, a wonderful man, Andreas, I think, Choppet. And he said, if city of Bern became a blue community, would you come back? And I said, yes. So the year after I came back, and not only did the city become a blue community, but the University of Bern and the Reformed Church of Switzerland all became blue communities, and added a fourth pledge, which was to promote public partnerships in the global south rather than public-private partnerships. And others have added or changed or adopted things that pledges that are relevant to them. And that started a movement outside of Canada, which I had never anticipated. And it's become an organic kind of movement. You're going to hear in a moment from Roland about just how organic and how widespread. But it really took off first in Switzerland, and Roland and the others there have just done an amazing job. It started to be adopted by faith-based groups. You're going to hear about the World Council of Churches, universities. We have more than a dozen universities around the world that have become blue communities. We have in Canada just created a Blue Schools project, which everybody is welcome to access. Go to the Council of Canadians website and just look for the Blue Community Schools, and help yourselves. We would love that to become a blueprint. But really, this is an organic movement that then moved into Europe. We now have it. We have blue communities in Africa and Latin America and so on. And Roland will take it from here. But I guess what I want to relay to everyone here is the urgency of the global water crisis that we're facing, as distinct from the climate crisis, which is also very serious. I am not in any way diminishing, but we need to what I call start thinking blue as well as green, and continuing to fight for the human right to water, because in spite of, as I said earlier, in spite of getting the UN resolution, in spite of the fact that almost 4 dozen countries around the world have adopted the human right to water, either through amending their constitution or bringing in a separate law. In spite of all that, in spite of a number of important international court cases, we're still in a fight against time with the destruction of the planet's water table. So we would love to see Right Livelihood laureates, friends, anybody you know who wants to know more about this. We can provide the information. We would love you, if you're involved with the university, we'd love you to become involved and to start thinking blue, because the future of our planet depends on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maud. And now we'll go to Roland, who can talk us a little bit about how this organic community grew.
Well, yes, thank you, and welcome to everybody here. First, about myself briefly. I live in Zurich, Switzerland, downtown Europe. How did I come to this whole thing? For part of my life, I was working for trade union on public service employees. We had in Zurich a law in the parliament, a new water law they suggested, which was basically not a bad law. But then in the parliament, some parties, they put whatsoever into this law up to the possibility to privatize, at least partially, water supply, water services. And that was just like the drop too much. We did a referendum against this law. We won the referendum. We do have a new water law, but without any privatization and whatsoever. But in this process, I turned our trade union to become a blue community, and that's how I got in contact also with Maud and with all this blue community movement. Switzerland, as Maud said, was the first place out of Canada where blue community started, which was not foreseen, as Maud said. It started as a Canadian thing, and somehow it was more by accident that it happened in Switzerland. But then blue communities popped up and took the pledge like all over, like in Germany, in Spain, some in Latin America. So we had like blue communities, more and more of them around the globe, but they were all like, each single one of them was a blue community for itself. They didn't have any, they took the same pledges, but they didn't network. They were not like linked to each other. They were not like a movement. In Switzerland, in the meantime, we had like more than 50 blue communities, which is for a country with 9 million inhabitants, quite a lot. And there is all kind of blue communities from cities, universities, NGOs, faith-based organizations, parishes, and so on. And we started thinking, basically from the Blue University side, came the question, but how do the others do? What do they do about these pledges of the blue community? How do they implement them? How do they live them in the university? And we thought like, okay, let's organize a video meeting, a Zoom meeting, and bring these blue universities together. It's like 7, 8 in Switzerland. And already at the first meeting, the Blue University said, but what about other universities out of Switzerland? How can we link up to them? And so we started thinking about a blue university networking on global level. And then the university said, but look, we are not just, universities. We are part of society. We are involved into politics. We are like part of this world. So what about all the other blue communities? We would be interested in getting in contact with parishes and with city councils and whatsoever. So that's when the idea came up to say, okay, basically what we need is a place where all these blue communities can meet and greet, where they can present themselves, where they can share information. Um, just like the idea of a website. So, nowadays everybody has a website, but we are not an organization. So we're just basically a network. There is no legal structure whatsoever for this network. It's just based on all these blue communities that want to exchange, to share, to cooperate. If you want, I can for a second share my screen. I show you the website we did. Let's say we stay with English as we are talking English. You should come to the front side. So there is all kind of information like our blue values, the blue world I will come back to, the blue team, the blue news, where we have like every day a bunch of news on water and sanitation from blue communities all around the world. And Turn Blue, how you can become a blue community. Maybe of interest just to show you how this thing looks now. That's the blue world today. So when we started 2 years ago with this website and the social media linked to it, there was no single blue community in Africa. There was none in Asia. There were much less all around the world. And when we started the website, basically we had the first 3 blue communities we could welcome in Africa. In the meantime, as you can see here, when you would zoom in, Africa is like crowded with blue communities all over. Also in Asia, the first blue communities came up. So basically, the interest of an organization, an institution, you see in red, that's municipalities, in green, that's faith-based organizations. We do have blue ambassadors that promote the issue. We have the NGOs marked like this in blue. They all take the pledge and with the core values stamped with the blue community. They are part of the blue community with this. So they get a certificate to say you are a certified blue community. And they themselves, to take the pledge, have to write a commitment how they will implement these pledges. So what will they do to make water as a human right, sanitation as a human right, fight against privatization? What can be their contribution to this movement? We don't request what they should do. We just ask them, and they themselves suggest what they could do about it. And based on that, then, and I stop sharing now my screen, you can look the website yourself if you feel like. I can maybe drop it afterwards in the chat. The network basically is nothing but a platform without, as I said, legal structure or organizational. There is no office, there is no headquarters, there is no chief, no nothing. It's just a network. So we are all representing blue communities, and the cooperation in the network happens based on the interest of the affiliates, so of all single blue communities. Some contribute like regularly, almost daily, sending information, sharing information. From others, you hear very rarely. It's on every single blue community to decide how much time and energy they want to spend on it, and also how much they can take out of the network. I see we have some representatives from blue communities here in the audience also, so maybe at some point they will come in and tell their experience. So that's what the network basically is. It's a platform to share our common values, the blue pledges, and together to discuss how we can implement these pledges, what we can do. Like blue universities, we have twice a year a meeting, global exchange. At the last one, we had a Canadian university presenting how they turned their campus, so their university field, into a more environmental friendly and especially water sustainable campus. On the next Blue University meeting, we will have a university from Brazil where they will talk about how they turned the whole university into a blue community, and not just like the one person who is in charge of dealing with blue community, but like in every faculty and all through the student organizations, they all deal with water. So from history to theology to whatever it is, water is an issue everywhere. And that's basically the idea in the network, that we promote such approaches, such ideas, and try to spread the word about it as much as we can, inviting other organizations and institutions from around the globe to join this network and to strengthen our core value, fighting for water as a human right, defending it against profiteering and against pollution. As Maud said, without water, there is no blue planet, there is no life. I mean, it will look like Mars one day. Mars, also once had water. So there is a nice saying that I recently just read, and I finished with that. The dinosaurs didn't know what's coming. We do. And we can still do something about it. And I think that's what the Blue community tries to do. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we'll hear from Dinesh Sunna. Unfortunately, he was unable to speak live, but he was kind enough to send me a recording. So I will share my screen now, and we can hear from his experience in the World Council of Churches and how they came to be a part of the Blue community.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you may be joining in this call. My name is Dinesh Sunna from the World Council of Churches. I'm the program executive for land, water, and food advocacy from a justice perspective. And for quite some time, I have been coordinating WCC's water justice program, that is the ecumenical water network. And I'm based here in Geneva. I'm an Indian. Unfortunately, today I'm unable to join you live in the Zoom because of some medical emergencies that I need to take my son to the doctors. And therefore, I'm unable to join you live. And that is why I'm recording this. And I hope it turns out well. At the outset, I must inform you a little bit about the World Council of Churches. This is a global fellowship of over 350 national churches that are present in about 120 countries. And overall, we have a total membership of approximately 600 million Protestant and Orthodox churches around the world. And in 2016, the World Council of Churches became a Blue community. And what does it mean for a global fellowship with such a large constituency of about 600 million people becoming a Blue community? Meaning all our member churches, all these 350 who constitute this huge number, became a Blue community. And therefore, we did not further went by one church after the another church becoming Blue communities, but the fellowship of churches, when it became Blue, it means all our member churches also will have to adhere to the principles of Blue community. And obviously, before me, Maud Barlow and Roland and others may have underlined that what it takes to become Blue or join the Blue community. So obviously, to respect human rights to water and say no to privatization of water and say no to bottled water. At least in Europe and in North America, this is very much possible to say no to bottled water, where tap water is relatively safe to drink. And wherever tap water is not safe, then we need to look for other alternatives, such as purifying our water, boiling our water, or whatnot, but all the more demand from our governments in order to provide us clean water, drinking water through our taps. Because in 2010, water became a human right, and thereby all governments are signatory to this resolution, and therefore there is a moral and ethical responsibility for all governments to provide clean water to its people, its citizens. And since I work at the World Council of Churches, our engagement with the Blue communities, which I would urge you to watch a 3 minutes video after I have spoken, how we became a Blue community and why we became a Blue community. So that has been articulated. So I would not like to dwell much on it, but I think our intervention has been through the spiritual, moral, and ethical route. And for us, water, access to clean water is a justice issue. It is a rights issue. And when Jesus Christ has already talked about, I have come so that you may have life and have it in all its fullness. And this is the gospel truth for us as Christians. And very interestingly, in the Bible, I must inform you, probably this little anecdote you may not know, or the fact, is that the word water is written much or many more times than the water Christ, for example. Over 600 times water is mentioned in the Bible, but very quickly we move to the spiritual aspect of water and ignoring the fact that there are millions today who are deprived of getting access to safe drinking water and adequate sanitation. And to address this, we have started a campaign called the 7 Weeks for Water. And every Lenten period, we have we publish 7 biblical reflections around water, taking the scriptures from the Bible and then relate it to our own context, how water is a scarce commodity today, or the corporatization, privatization, or financialization of water. So I would urge you to please Google 7 Weeks for Water, and it will lead you to the WCC's website, where since 2008, we have been producing this Bible study. Until today, we have over 150 Bible studies in all 4 languages of the WCC. That is English, German, French, and Spanish are available. So friends, I also would like to draw your attention. Today, we launched a newsletter for the year end at the Ecumenical Water Network. It's called Together for Water. I would share the link, and I would ask my colleagues to share it with you all. We also publish the Living Planet Monitor, and I'm just holding this here, the Living Planet Monitor. It's an annual publication, and we just released it at the COP30. It's a well-researched publication which bring in the nexus approach to land, water, and food vis-a-vis climate change. And the concept of blue communities governs these publications. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm so sorry I'm unable to join you live, but I would try to join, but I will be at the doctor's facility, so cannot talk. Thank you so much. Please do watch the video, how WCC became a blue community. Thank you.
just to say how my deep appreciation for both of these two people, Roland and Dinesh, for playing such a pivotal role. I mean, sometimes, we always say it's a movement and it's many people, and that's true. But sometimes you need someone just to take it on. And Roland has become a real leader in Switzerland, and now with the incredible website that he's put together, as you saw. And Dinesh got it right from the beginning. Dinesh understood deeply at a very core level, and he talked about the whole concept of justice and commitment as being a faith-based one, and has made a remarkable difference. So, there's just wonderful people in the world, which is something we all need to remember, because these are difficult days, and these are good people, and we my definition of hope, I wrote a book on hope called Still Hopeful, and my definition of hope is that you don't pretend things aren't bad, or whatever. You look something in the face, and you face it, and you learn as much as you can about it, but you still do something. You don't say, well, it's too much for me, there's nothing I can do. You put your hand out and you touch the universe somewhere where you can make a difference. And here's the faith part. You have to have faith that others are doing something like that. You don't know who they are. You can't possibly know what's happening, but that there's an essential good in the world. And I think we're seeing it through this water justice movement.
Maybe if you just allow me to add up, more, I would not say myself, I would see myself as a leader. I would say maybe I'm a facilitator. I'm somebody who tries to network and encourage others. And I think that's the great thing in this movement in the Blue community. You made big footsteps, and some people taller than you, but smaller than you, try to walk in these footsteps. And all around the world, there is people who just see how easy it is to become a Blue community and how easy it is to be part of the solution. And just to make a difference, not waiting for the next cup and counting cup 35, 38, 500, whatever, but just to say, there where I am, there where we are as an organization, as an institution, we can make a difference within our own organization, with our own field of influence, but also outside by promoting the idea, by inviting others. I just had a talk now today with Leo Heller, who was a previous UN Special Rapporteur for the Human Right of Water and Sanitation. I made an interview with him, which is on our website. And just he says, like, there is so much we have to do, and it's getting more and more, but we have the tools, we can do that. We just have to start doing it. Don't wait for nobody. Don't despair. Just as Maud said, there is hope, and you are the hope. Each single one is the hope if we start moving. And that's basically the invitation of the Blue community, I think, the encouraging moment of such a movement without much structure, without much forms, without payment, without fees, without membership, but just being part of a big thing and contribute to it.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to give my thanks to Maud, to Roland, to Dinesh for your speak just now, and now I open up to Q&A. And if you have a question, please also say who you are and if you're directing it to one individual. You can raise your hand or type in the chat. Allegra.
Hi, Maud and Roland. My name is Allegra Morelli. Thank you so much for your speeches. I'm really happy to be here. I'm curious about the tap water dispensaries and the process behind that, how they're installed and how long they last, and thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a student at UC Santa Cruz, and I saw the email forwarded from John to my coordinator, David Shaw at Right Livelihood.
Oh
I'm
my
part of the
heavens.
college. Yes,
Say hello to David for me, please. My
I definitely
goodness.
will.
Wow. Wonderful work. Roland, do you
Really?
want to take this?
Well, I can just say some words about it. So basically, there are plenty of techniques how to provide clean water depending on the conditions that you are in. So dispensers in the northern part of the world, let's say, where we have quite clean tap water, even we continue polluting it, but basically tap water is still better than the bottled water. Dispensers are available basically everywhere. So like in Zurich, as a city with let's consider it the bigger city, 1 million people, we have like 1,400 fountains, and all of them have drinking water. So there is sometimes like Americans complaining when they have to pay too much money for water in a restaurant in Switzerland. And we always joke and say, I mean, there is a fountain everywhere. Wherever you look in the city, there is a fountain. So just fill your bottle there. Don't ask for water in the restaurant. Makes no sense. Universities, for example, in Switzerland, Zurich is a blue university, Bern is a blue university. They both have done a lot by dispensers, that's one thing, all over, but also to promote tap water instead of bottled water. So tap water is on the menu. Tap water is available in the catering. Tap water is served when they do some public conferences or events. They use jars for tap water instead of bottled water. So basically, whenever you can go around commodified water, industrialized water, plastic bottled water, there are ways to do that. And there are plenty of companies who provide such dispensers. In the global south, an issue is, for example, rainwater collecting and purifying rainwater for collectors. So there are techniques available, and some of them really sustainable in the sense of not too expensive and not needing too much of technical know-how to maintain them. So it depends on the conditions where you are. I understand you're in Canada. Easy peasy, I would say.
She's she's in the U.S., but I just
Or in
want to
the
say,
US.
I want to
Thank
add,
you.
well, to Trump, that's the same thing, you know. He wants to take us over as a 51st state. No, I just want to add, thank you, Roland. That's exactly right. In a number of universities, we've had a real fight where the Nestle or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Danone have got the contract at the university, and they put their vending machines in front of the public water dispensaries. Literally, I mean, they literally they're you know, they are instructed. The people are instructed to put them in front so that the students don't see them. So you go and you buy your water instead. So it's been a real struggle in a number of universities. But I was just up couple of weeks ago up at York University, where this campus has 5,500 people, and they took a vow to not provide bottled water, and you could not get bottled water on campus. I mean, if people want to bring it on campus, nobody's going to stop them. But in all the restaurants, in all the takeout places, in the pharmacies, it doesn't matter. There was no bottled water. I couldn't believe that they, you know, they really could maintain that. So it is absolutely possible to do, but it does take a political fight sometimes.
Yeah, for example, the University of Bern that just had last year, no, this year it still is, a poster campaign, an advertising campaign with big posters all around the university promoting tap water, saying, we have it, it's here, I mean, you know, just take it. And I think it needs also, students have to learn that it is available and where to get it, how to get it, and the easier it is to get it, the more they will use it. So in Bern, as you said, Maud, now from there, nobody would buy a bottle of water anymore. Just makes no sense. They just take them off the catering list. So I hope in the US you soon will also start doing that. So we're looking forward to have the first blue university from the US. There is none so far. So.
Ola, you had a question?
Thank you. Just first, I have to say it's so lovely to see you. Thank you very much, Maud, for your inspiring presentation. Thank you, Roland and Dinesh. And also so lovely to see Alison, a representative of Right Livelihood, Laureate IBFAN, in the call. And I see what you're talking about with the water as a focus point also so much as an entry point. It's such a clear, connection that we have. You see my thing. For all of us, to larger topics of human rights, environment, climate, nature protection, urban-rural relation. I mean, you name it. It's so multifaceted and thus also so much fun and inviting to connect also to other struggles. And I mean, you show that with your two presentations, Roland. You said you had a background in the trade union movement, right? And Dinesh with the whole amazing WCC network and faith community. So I really see so much hope in these decentralized networks, that we also see, those stories of hope that we hear from people who were in Berlin, who say, well, the declaration, the resolution that came out in the end is crap because it demands a consensus between all states, and it can easily be derailed by a few petrostates. But when you look at the networks of cities, for instance, that are going in faster than others together, when you look at I'm looking for the word in English, coalitions of the willing of various actors. There's so much happening, and I guess my question would be still where you see the next frontier of what is the ambition or the potential for this movement? Would you see it in reaching for the kind of institutional level as you did with the UNGA mod in 2010 and the Declaration of the Right to Water? Is that then where we can take this struggle one step further, or is it in broadening the network even further, or is it in connecting the network even better? What needs to happen next to take this?
Ole, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for this great question. It has to be from both the bottom up, and there has to be more from the top down. You know that the climate meeting, the UN has its climate summit every year. There are the biodiversity summits. There are the plastic summits. The first water summit in almost 50 years just took place a couple of years ago in New York City. This is how much water has fallen behind in terms of being on top of the international agenda. Water got linked into climate. The climate crisis affects this, and water. And you will see things, you'll see, a drought in somewhere where it's going to be the net zero city, is going to run out of water in a year or 6 months or whatever. It's due to climate change. Well, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. Mostly it isn't, in my opinion. The major issues around water is how, we humans have seen water as a resource for our pleasure and our profit and our convenience, and we've just used it and not protected it. We don't understand its sacred nature within nature and within ourselves. I also so both this organic movement from below, which informs, and I also want to talk very, very quickly about the rights of nature, because I've become very much a fan of that as a companion piece. And the biggest part of the rights of nature are the rights of rivers, where rivers are being declared to have personhood rights. Now, it comes from the bottom up. In my country, it's indigenous communities, and very many other places it starts with indigenous communities. And the indigenous people there are the guardians of that river. The first in Canada was one in northern Quebec called the Magpie, and it has 9 rights to flow, to flourish, and so on. But the last right is that the river has the right to sue governments and corporations if they pollute it. I love it. Now, would that stand up in a court of law? Would that stand up at our Supreme Court? We don't know, but I know this. Our government has adopted the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and that says right there that they have cultural rights, resource rights, historical rights, rights over the water and the resources in their territory. So that's a clash that is you're probably going to see. And the other trend that very deeply worries me, and I've written a new book about it called Earth for Sale, is the financialization of nature, not just water. And that is the move by corporations and by asset managers and that kind of elite that know better than the rest of us. They say basically the answer in a market economy, in a capitalist economy, is that nature has to compete to survive. So you put a price on it. I call it calculating or measuring creation. And then you bring nature into the market where it has to compete by itself, and that's the carbon trading and the plastics offsets and all of that. And now we've got water pollution trading and all sort plastics trading to do with water and bottled water and so on. Like, it's moved to the next stage. And I think trying to catch that new way that water is being privatized, that water grab, out of sight. Most people don't know about it. Most environmentalists don't know about it. An editor was working on my book, said, I've invested in all these green and blue investments thinking it was the right thing to do. And here you are saying you're just making the problem worse, right? Because often it isn't real at all. So it's staying on top of where this is going and the place that AI is playing in this, not only AI and its horrible use of energy and its absolute abuse and use of consumption of water, but also in freeing the richest among us. I don't mean us on this call, among us on the planet, from any regulation. And that includes around protecting the environment, protecting nature. So staying up with that is incredibly important for our movement. And taking a deep breath, and as I said earlier, having faith that others are following this too.
Thank you. And then next question from Alison.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, great to see you all. Thank you, Ollie. It was 30 years ago, nearly, that we got the Right Livelihood Award. IBFAN's still going strong. And you'll see in the publication that I've put on the screen that on the first page, we rather cheekily quoted Maud, because it was such a brilliant quote to begin our expose of Nestle's marketing practices, the water grab, as you say, and the profits Nestle makes. And IBFAN is the bottom up. I mean, we really are. We've got groups in many, many countries, including Pakistan and others, where this is such a terrible problem. So what we're trying to do is expose Nestle's tactics, Nestle's antics, by giving publicity in our posts on LinkedIn to the trials and tribulations of Nestle in France, the product recalls, the pollution, the criminal proceedings brought for environmental contamination of plastics by plastics. So we're trying to link in all these issues. As Maud says, we made statements for COP30, and there were indigenous members of IBFAN from the Amazon present. We also the Global Plastics Treaty. And I think my question is, how can we make this work more widely known? Could it be through the Right Livelihood Award office, through the World Council of Churches, with whom I worked for many years on the boycott of Nestle in Switzerland and worldwide. And so this is really activism to convince our municipalities, our governments, to take action, but expose also their complicity in what are crimes against humanity. Thank you.
I don't know, perhaps Ole would have some thoughts on this as well.
And John, maybe I'll pass that to you, if I may, for a few words also from your side of your intentions and our intentions too. connect activism with academia and broadening networks?
Sorry, I missed the end of the question. It crackled up and I was sending a message. Alison, could you repeat the sentiment of the question? Sorry about that.
Yeah. I'm just asking how we can make our work more widely known, the trials and tribulations of Nestle, the pollution, the criminal cases, basically, I'd just like you to read IFAN's documents and visit IFAN's websites. And and I just said, yeah, we had statements for COP30. We had also the Global Plastics Treaty. It's outreach, bottom up, but get the message out. And we have to hold the governments accountable and the municipalities. So I just read the document and any advice welcome. That's all.
Absolutely, we'll be sure to do that. And yes, as Ulla says, I mean, within the education work of the Right Livelihood Foundation, that we have a lot of university partnerships, and we join a couple of them here. We have the Right Livelihood College, which Allegro is representing, and also the Global Campus Human Rights Partnership. And from there, we have a huge reach when it comes to young people and really embedding this within them understanding their fundamental rights. And so Maud, Roland, you said that we don't have any presence within the US. That's where our secretariat for the Right Livelihood College sits. And we've just had many discussions about being a lot more embedded within the local community. And California, as a state, knows all too well about water crises. So that is something that we will definitely look to see if we can increase the presence of those issues on campus.
I may come in just, I think the key thing is to walk the talk. So there is a lot of talking and it's good to talk. So do good and talk about it. I believe very much in this, but it's also, I think, important to involve the people, give them a chance to be part of it. So that's what I think is the good thing in the Blue community. You don't wait for somebody else doing something. You can be part, not just alone by using less water in the shower, let's say, but you're part of a community that together tries to make a difference in your range of things. And I think people, once they get involved in it, they learn better to understand it. They learn to see where the obstacles are, what has to be done, what can be done. It's learning processes together. And I think in that sense, the next frontier, if you want. So for me, it really is to expand the network to as many people as possible being part of it, understanding it, participating in it, and becoming part of the solution, and not just to wait for solutions or to whatever. And the more we are part of the solution, the bigger the pressure will be on people, delegations going to the COP or making sure that the oil companies are not dominating such conferences and so on. So I really think that this kind of awareness by involving, by participating, that's something which I consider very important, that I think the Blue community gives a perfect tool for that.
Thank you. And we have time for one last question. Samar. We can't hear you, Samar. Oh, I can't. Now I can.
Can you hear me now? Oh, sorry. My laptop keeps connecting to my phone. Thank you so much for the very interesting and inspiring presentation from the three of you. I think what resonates with me as well, like how all of this idea of your engagement with water started by you just reading and then feeling that there's something off, like why water should be a trade, and then you're taking it. It's very inspiring. I have a couple of questions. The very first question is regarding the pledge that you highlighted, about how the Blue community start working in Canada, especially with the labor union, and how why it's focused in a municipality level, like why it did not focus in a more higher level. Because I feel like in so many countries, I was born and raised in the Middle East, and the issue of water and the privatization of water has been a subject that has been discussed many times, and it's more usually controlled by the state or the government or the country, not the municipality. So I was wondering if another structure, how would that look like? And then I have another question for Roland regarding the network. I've learned from your presentation, and I hope that I didn't get that right, that the Blue community as a network expanded organically. And I was wondering why that was not intentionally, and are you aiming to have it like more intentionally, and then how you would sustain it? And it's a learning phase for us. We have started a network through the Right Livelihood called Women Laureates Hub, and we wish it to bloom and expand and to be sustained. And we're trying different methods, but we didn't get the right one yet. So I would like to learn as well from your experience.
Well, I'll just start with Canada. It's just the way the responsibilities are divided. The provinces, we're a very big country, remember. The provinces are huge. You could fit Europe into a small part of one of our big provinces. So they're responsible for resource management, and the municipalities deliver water and wastewater. So they make a decision whether it's public or private. The federal government provides federal funding, and it's usually the biggest pot of money. And so this right-wing government came to power and said to the provinces and the municipalities, you're not going to get federal funding that you need. And because all of our municipalities are growing, the pipes were 100 years old, they needed to be, replaced, and huge costs for infrastructure development. You're not going to get federal funding unless you go to public-private partnership. So we had to get to the local level for them to say no. So it's just kind of the way the state, yes, does make certain decisions, but we allow it at a much closer level, which I think is a really good thing, because you can have much more impact locally at a municipal level than you can at a federal or national level. But, however you do it, whatever situation you find yourself in, standing firm with these principles is really important.
Well, maybe to add up on that, I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do it. I think there are different ways to do it. And my experience is that, governments change. You have a next elections, and the next government will turn back what we achieved and so on. So things are stable as much as they are based and rooted. So it depends on societies, and in the societies, usually it's organizations, NGOs very often, trade unions, faith-based organizations that are most aware and most committed to these things, and they make sure that these values, go beyond mandates or elections and votations. So, the network was growing. I would say that because there is no headquarter, there is nobody to take decisions and giving commands and say, now you have to do this or that, or we need a blue community there. It's basically all based on invitations. So we invite, just like yesterday, I think, I had a communication with a blue community in South Africa asking, but like we are only 2 blue communities in the whole of South Africa. And I said, well, make it more. Invite your friends, your contacts you have, institutions, municipalities, organizations, whatever it is, to join the fight. And that's usually how it works. It's like, again, walk the talk. Those who are members, those who are affiliates, they do activities, and these activities, they talk about, they present them, and attract others who join in. And I wouldn't have anything against the state if the US would turn around and say, we stand up for the right to water and sanitation and make it an international campaign instead of doing murky businesses to get people rich. I would be happy to see that, but I still think it needs people fighting for that. It will not happen just like that. So my trust is bigger in the society than it is in governments changing back and forth, let's say like that. I hope I answered your question, and if not.
Looks like you did. Good. So that brings us to time for the schedule of this webinar. Unless there's any last burning question, then I'll bring the session to an end.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And yes, thank you to Maud, to Roland, and to Dinesh for your contributions. And
I saw Barbara's hand. Hello, Barbara.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining.